Well, hey guys, I am here today to do a broadcast. If you will stand by, I want to share this link to the broadcast to a couple of places so that way some people can come in and join. But this broadcast is going to be a tribute to the essentially to the builds that we all made before the Beyond update came out. All of those builds that had lights and things clipped into walls that we now won't really necessarily be able to we won't be able to see in full color again. We're not going to be going back to build all these bases and get all the resources needed in order to just continue to have these bases look as they did when we first built them. And honestly, like, it's kind of a tragedy, but in its own way, it forced us to move on from them and create new things, and also learn how to play the game in the new style that they've come up with. I'm not going to make it all sound bad, you know, like it was kind of frustrating, but it's cool. Like, this kind of stuff happens. And so, as I was saying, this base here is essentially just a PvP base that I built on Anya here in the FDI home system, if you're familiar with that hub, or with other channels that stream within it. There are a couple of people that build and stream inside of this this community, and it's a pretty cool one. Shout out to all my peeps. Basically, to explain what we're looking at here, I'm just gonna break it down, but I'll get to that in a moment. For now, what I'm gonna first say is I made these bases before those updates came into play. There were lights clipped in, I had power that I didn't need to provide for those lights, and it was a nice little visual marvel. So, you know, did I want it to look that way forever? Did I get to? Nope. Things changed. You know, everybody came back to our bases, and stuff was dark and we couldn't see, and it was just an absolute tragedy. I didn't like the way that it felt hearing about this. It was so hard that I decided to put the game down, and I didn't actually come back to look at my bases in the dark. And so we are going to wait until nightfall, and you will see what these bases look like in the dark. If you've seen these bases before, or if you look in my old videos, you might see some footage. If you've watched the Hidden Panda show and seen their streams in PvP, you might have seen a match or two held in these bases, and you would see what they looked like before Beyond update, or actually before the Builder update also as well. And now we're going to get down to, hello. Flying a little low there, Chief. All right. So, anyways, this base here was designed in such a way that you could use your multi-tool. Now, at the time, they hadn't had an update that allowed us to shoot inside of structures. And so I found a way to build that allowed you to pull your multi-tool out, but you were still essentially inside of a room and you could not leave. This way we could create CQB environments and indoor fighting scenarios. You know, we were aiming to use the refiners as a capture the flag and base control style gameplay to do King of the Hill and such. And it was basically the only way that we could do it. And now that it's nightfall, you can see that, you know, your light doesn't turn on inside of a building, but here we are inside of this one, and it's on. There will be certain places where it turns off. Sometimes, occasionally, it'll flick off, and that does mean that your multi-tool might, you know, suddenly get put away in an occasion. Like, but as you can see, it's very rare, and you'd be able to, you know, fight your way through the situation. It's not that easy to kill each other in PvP, so it made it pretty effective. It also helped that there was so many ways to attack people that you didn't have access to You know, I couldn't get to you if you're in that hallway, but I could still shoot you if you left yourself open. So, you know, this build design took a lot of experimentation and struggle to come up with, and then an update came out. A beautiful, wonderful update that just made it to where you could have your multi-tool out inside of structures. And so this was the first instance in No Man's Sky where I had one of the great, timeless, beautiful experiences that if you've ever played a game like Minecraft or you know, other builder crafters like 7 Days to Die, where it's kind of the adverse of lack of updates, but more or less whenever they change the build mechanics in Minecraft and certain things that would not need gravity be applied to them, that would float in the air if you placed them properly, certain materials that would function slightly differently, and redstone specifically having certain changes that were made back in the day when they were first implementing redstone. These building mechanics, when you'd come back to a functioning machine that you had built, or you know, any map that you had created with specific places or pieces in certain places, sometimes you'd spawn into the map and you'd watch your entire building fall apart. You'd watch it burn. You'd watch it explode or take itself apart, or pistons not work. Sometimes you'd come back and hit a button and nothing would happen at all, and you wouldn't know why. And then you'd look at the machine and it would look like it should work fine. And now you've got to completely find a new principle on how to design the feature that it had. This is sort of the same issue, except, you know, we can still use the structure. It just wasted a lot of time and energy. And so we're going to go on. We're going to go over to the base here. This is where you're going to start to see the real difference. This structure used to be green, black and green. There were lights clipped inside of the walls everywhere. Now it's dark. Pretty darn depressing, to be honest. This base used to be pretty cool. It kind of had a alien spaceship sort of vibe to it, with the way that the lights were hidden, and they would only let green light off in certain corners and crevices. And if you look in my stream, you'll probably find some shots of this place in the dark and what it looked like. And now it's very much more so in the dark. But it's still a pretty cool base. Both of them are still very useful for PvP. Like, there's definitely still potential here. That could use a little bit of dressing up, maybe some decoration. And, you know, this base could use a little light. I don't mind going in and placing some and figuring out the generator. Folks, so this was the light fixtures. And any further ado, we are going to go ahead and take it onto the rave grave. Now, there is a video in my stream called Clubbing Out in No Man's Sky, and it is definitely it's a PvP phase that took me a long time, and that video is a video of us doing PvP inside of it. It took us a little bit to work out in that video how to start the PvP match, just because I think some people needed some different equipment or something. But at any rate, you can watch that video and get to see us walking around inside of the base and looking at the way that all the lights and colors bounce off the walls. And I used a more thought out approach, as I did in those PvP arenas we just left, and kind of more or less was perfecting the method. Now, is that? No. It's on, what planet was it on? I don't remember. I think it's that. Yes, that's gotta be it. I think it was on Euros. All right. So, you know what, I'm gonna
Whoops.